It's a hard foul. You could say it's a play on the ball.
When they signed Sophie Cunningham, I was like, oh, that's a championship move.
And finally a take, but Sophie wasn't having any of it. She stepped in. Clark took a brutal series of hits. First a poke to the eye, then a locked. Sophie Cunningham just made a bold statement to the entire league, and there's no ignoring it. In a game already fueled by high tension, Caitlin clapped JCS Sheldon and held her ground.
Now, honestly, I felt like Sophie might have wanted a piece of JC after the Caitlin Clark and JC kind of scuffle going on, right?
Suddenly, it wasn't just Sophie G and Lindsay Allen got swept into the chaos too. All three were ejected. But here's what everyone's talking about. Why were only Sophie and Allen penalized, while Marina Mabrey got away with her shot? The double standards are high.
Sophie, JC Sheldon, and Marina Mabrey should have been ejected. The three of them should have been ejected.
Stuck around until the end. Good, because the post-game reactions were even hotter. But first, how did a WNBA game spiral into one of the season's most explosive moments right from the tip-off? The matchup between the Indiana Fever and Connecticut Sun was tense from the start. It didn't take long for things to turn physical. JCS Sheldon set the tone early, shadowing Caitlin.
JC Sheldon, who I guess wanted to find out the hard way, got into it with Caitlin early in the game. First of all, if you watch the game, you know she's grabbing her, she's holding her, she's all this physicality stuff. It started pretty early in the game. You can see that she's in Caitlin's face, and Caitlin's like, "Get up out of here!" And then Mabrey pushed her, and then Lexi Hall. You see Lexi right here, and this was the first time.
It was blatant.
JC Sheldon is obviously displacing Caitlin Clark. And then he says Marina Mabrey is going to get ejected from this game. Well, no, she did not get ejected from the game. As we're standing around watching them watch the film, no, not ejected. Caitlin gets a technical. You poke me in the eye, I get a technical. Then you push up on me, I get a technical.
We got to let everybody know, put everybody in the WNBA on notice. We're not remotely scared.
Fast break. You see Sheldon taking it after getting a steal. Sophie wraps her arms around her for the contact. So Sophie was trying to hold on to her. Still had a good grip on her. Pulls her down. But it looked like Sheldon was kind of doing a tad bit too much, man. Doing a tad bit too much. Ends up falling. And now we're going at it. Look at this. Now we're going at it. Sophie was waiting on it.
They just ejected Sophie. I'm clapping Sophie Cunningham off the floor. We're clapping Sophie Cunningham off the floor right now. We're clapping her off the floor. She's getting high-fived off the floor right now. It's JC Sheldon for 2 technical fouls. So, which is like the most lenient of all ejections, by the way. They gave her the most lenient of ejections. It's not even a real ejection. Wait, did Lindsay Allen got Sophie Cunningham, like, she got Sophie Cunningham around the neck. Lindsay Allen should be ejected as well, by the way.
Why?
This is what I've said before. With the Indiana Fever, you have eyeballs watching you play. That's the time for you to bring your A game, not to allow your frustration, your jealousy, your physicality, admiration, or whatever to be on full display.
Grip on her. Pulls her down. But it looked like Sheldon was kind of doing a tad bit too much, man. Doing a tad bit too much. Ends up falling, and now we're going at it. Look at this. Now we're going at it. Sophie was waiting on it. Now, I thought the chat was playing when they told me Sophie had a black belt. I'm like, wait a minute, what?
But Sophie
would now know her place and not poke people in the eye again. Hey. Enforcers, man. That's what enforcers do. Indiana Fever invoking the spirit of the 89 Pistons was not on my bingo card. That's what I'm saying, man. My goodness.
I don't like to see this stuff happening, but I totally agree that the officials are responsible. They bear some responsibility. and I have to reiterate what I said, and that is, this is not last year's Fever. Sophie had already told us when she first came in, I stick up for myself, I stick up for my teammates. And you, with your nasty play, and your teammates with their nasty play, there's less than a minute left in this game. I'm going to make sure you remember what you did.
After
the Antonelli spoke a mouthful right there. You can't eject her because you didn't eject Mabry. But of course, they did eject Sophie. And she says, I'm blaming this on the officials tonight. If they had done their job, it would have never gotten to this point.
Clark clawed, and then Marina Mabry got away with doing this. That was only a single technical foul. That wasn't even a flagrant. Blindsided Caitlin Clark, not even watching, hitting her on the ground. The referee said that is a technical foul. So to Sophie Cunningham, they cannot eject her. They cannot eject her. And by the way, I think Sophie Cunningham probably deserved to be ejected too. Okay with that. I'm okay with that. But like, not when Marina Mabry got away with it. Not when Marina Mabry got away with it. The referees can't do it. And by the way, the commentators were on the money. The commentators literally said they're on the money. They said that situation was on the referees. Because the referees had just done their job earlier in the game, Sophie Cunningham doesn't have to try take one for the team. Sophie doesn't have to take one for the team. Sophie doesn't have to feel like she needs to get revenge on JC Sheldon.
The game has changed so much. Players are faster, they're better, they're bigger, they're stronger. They're as good as they've ever been, they're as athletic as they've ever been. The game is fast now. Things are happening quickly. Everybody's getting better. Except the officials. So we gotta find a way.
Wow. That is taking you to the woodshed. Everybody's getting better except the officials. She probably is racking up 4-5.
So JC Sheldon when they should have ejected her. It is not the standard that was set. And by the way, if the Marina Mabry one was an ejection, that's an ejection. That's ejection. I actually don't even mind. But the referees can't now say that's an ejection when that is less than the Marina Mabry one. Like, that is less than the Marina Mabry. There's less contact there. It's less dangerous. If she didn't get blindsided, the referees have set the precedent that is a flagrant one. You can't do anything about that. Let's not forget, Caitlin Clark clawed, and then Marina Mabry got away with doing this. That was only a single technical foul. That wasn't even a bad thing. It's just a mad situation. And look, I mean this. Teams are going to have to think twice about messing with Caitlin Clark again. Teams are going to have to think twice because, by the way, if people think Sophie Cunningham's the only player in the Fever that's going to do something like this, there are players in the Fever that will take someone out. Maybe not in as obvious a way. But there are players on the Fever team that will knock someone on their ass.